Hey, what's up, guys? This is David Chase Taylor of 911truther.org. Today is April 13th of 2026. So, based on breaking news and events, it appears the CIA headquarters located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland is going to stage an Iranian or Russian-backed Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, i.e. ISIS-based terror offensive targeting multiple cities, countries, and or continents on the date of Tuesday, April 14th of 2026, specifically to spawn a second global biological pandemic under the guise of a weaponized contagion-related attack and or trigger World War III. In reality, of course, this goes without saying, this is going to be a terror offensive that's launched by the Israeli Defense Forces and or the Israeli Mossad, who have dual passports to enter the United States, Canada, England, France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, Italy, France, Belgium, etc., Netherlands, at will. And so these are the terrorists that are going to commit the attack, and then they will, of course, kill or arrest a bunch of Islamic patsies that they, of course, led into Europe in the mass migration from Syria into Europe starting in 2015. As with all terror attacks, political assassinations, and acts of war, it bears the numeric signature of the CIA who is ordering the attack. Of course, the date of April 14th marks exactly 4,672 days since the CIA founded ISIS back on June 29th of 2013. The number 42 or 24 equates to the letter X, which is known internationally as the symbol of death because, like I said earlier, this is likely going to be a weaponized biological contagion, possibly under the guise of a weaponized Ebola or smallpox attack. And then we have the number 62 and 4672. 62 or 26 equates to the letter Z. 62 is 26, 26 equates to the letter Z in the English alphabet, which is an acronym for Zionism. And then if you take the Z plus the X is Zix or six, and this is indicative of the Israeli six-pointed star. The sixth letter, of course, is F, which is a double cross because the Israeli government, at the behest of the Swiss government, namely their CIA, is basically a double crossing these respective countries who are stupid enough to allow these Israelis into their country. Okay, so exactly what type of terror attacks are planned is obviously not known. I'm going to get into the potential scenarios, but the CIA staged soft ISIS attacks targeting multiple countries, and those are the most likely to be targeted. For example, the CIA staged an ISIS attack targeting Brussels International Airport, so therefore that airport is likely going to be hit. They also staged ISIS attacks targeting Paris, Amsterdam, Berlin, London, and so those are the most likely locations. That being said, obviously Washington, D.C., Baltimore, New York City in the United States will likely be targeted. Coincidentally, on the evening of April 13th of 2026, U.S. President Donald J. Trump met with the Queen and King of the Netherlands, so this suggests that the Amsterdam and The Hague will likely be targeted. In the aftermath of these attacks, even though they will be committed by the Israeli Mossad and the IDF, they will be scapegoated onto Iran or Russia, specifically to trigger World War III. So exactly what type of attacks are planned is obviously not known, but I envision a scenario where it starts out with mass shootings, suicide bombings, vehicular ramming attacks, car bombings, and then begins to escalate, likely featuring hostage crises, kidnappings, likely featuring made-for-TV beheadings of innocent victims. And then what they're going to do is they're going to culminate this event, this terror event, either on the date of the 14th or the 15th or the 16th or the 17th, with some sort of a 9/11 style nuclear attack or chemical or biological attack. So they'll stage an attack, they'll siege a city such as London, Paris, Madrid, New York, And then while the whole world is watching, while hundreds, if not thousands, of tourists or civilians are being detained in this attack, that's why the October 7th attacks featured a prolonged hostage crisis, because this impending event is going to have a made-for-TV hostage crisis organized by Netanyahu, and then it's going to last 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days, and then they're going to fly a plane directly into that city, and they're going to, of course, kill their own people, because these people are actually batshit crazy. So this will be CBRN in nature: chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear nature. Other possible scenarios are arson attacks, hostage crisis, kidnappings, mass shootings, massacres, storming, sieges, suicide bombings, truck bombings, car bombings, etc. They may target, as with all, or many, I should say, many false flag attacks, they always attack themselves. So in attacking whatever location in Europe, they're likely going to target synagogues, they're likely going to target Israeli consulates, they're likely going to target Israeli embassies, or Jewish, Hebrew, or Israeli-related entities or persons. This is always the victim mentality of the Zionists, is they always attack themselves, so that they, like, why would we attack ourselves? But that's their MO, that's their bread and butter, that's what they do. There's also the high possibility that these attacks are going to target A-list celebrities, because they feel like they get power when they murder celebrities and athletes and entertainers. It's part of their ritual. Bars, churches, malls, nightclubs, theaters, sporting events, tourist attractions, possibly even targeting sporting events. This is what we saw during the Paris terror attacks. They targeted a theater, the Bataclan Theater, then they targeted a soccer game. And then we see on October 7th, they attacked a concert. So that is what, because, you know, if ISIS really had a problem with the U.S. government or the European Union or NATO, they would attack those related entities. But because these are Israelis, they will attack soft targets because there's no resistance and they don't want to get killed. So they always attack non-military targets, because they're basically pussies. And of course, mass transit. So buses, trains, subways, airports, airliners, cruise ships, etc., etc. Yeah, so like I said, trains, train stations, airports, airplanes, subways, subway stations, buses, bus depots. And then, of course, there's the possibility that the CIA will stage some sort of an attack, possibly launched from the Israeli Navy. There are German-made Dolphin-class submarines of the Israeli Navy. So, for example, if one of these is sitting off the coast in the English Channel, and then it launches a missile targeting, let's say, Heathrow Airport, they'll say that it was from a man-pad or from a rocket launcher, but in reality, it's from the Israeli Navy. And we could see this targeting United States Armed Forces military installations as well. I don't believe that they would attempt to breach the security perimeter with the Israeli forces. I believe that they would actually launch missiles or drones into those respective locations, because they don't want to engage in hand-to-hand combat. Because if these soldiers were to kill an Israeli and then take their mask off, that's why, again, why these Israeli terrorists always wear masks. That's why ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all these guys wear masks, is because the face is a Jew. It's an Israeli underneath it. And they have particular features, as you know, and so they don't want to be identified, because this would become an international scandal overnight if they were unable to suppress the leak. So they would likely send missiles or projectiles into tourist locations from Israeli Dolphin-class submarines. So just to recap, Tuesday, April 14th of 2026, the CIA is plotting a multi-front terror offensive that is going to be allegedly committed by Iran or Russia. This is likely going to target Canada, the United States, the Mediterranean, possibly even as far east as Dubai, Qatar, up into Turkey, Italy, Egypt, Israel. Even they might even attack themselves in Israel, Greece, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and then Northern Europe. France, Germany, Brussels, Amsterdam, Netherlands, and then they might even go as far as Scandinavia, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, unlikely but possible. And so this could be a wide-ranging terror offensive. There's also a possibility, unlikely, but that they would stage these attacks also in Southeast Asia. But most likely, I believe that they're going to attack Europe, the Mediterranean, and the United States. And then, of course, this would be used to spawn a second global biological pandemic and or trigger World War III. So if that in fact happens on the date of April 14th of 2026, I kindly ask that you download this video and share it with local, state, and federal law enforcement, military, and intelligence officials, as well as with local, national, and international media outlets. Peace.